Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf coming at you with another video. All right, so getting out today, not really sure where I'm going, don't need to pick up anything, maybe some green beans. Like literally ran out of that. I like having that in my stew, but other than that, I brought everything I needed to buy over the last couple of days. So I don't even know if I'm gonna go do my little hill walking thing, since it ain't really much to do over there in Hollywood. I might be doing something else today. Might go to downtown, might go maybe find myself at the observatory today. I'm not really sure, but I brought my big charger just in case I do go to the observatory, because that's one of the things I kind of do when I go there. Just kind of plug my phone in, just sit there and soak up the sunshine. But yeah, not really sure, man. I don't know if I'll do my hill climbing thing today. I feel a lot better than I did yesterday. I think I rested much better over these last last night than I had over the last several days. Slept well and all of that. So if anything, I just want to put myself in the strongest position to just feel the day, you know, the breeze, I guess, because there ain't really much else to it other than to say I'm getting out, just so that I'm not staying in the house, more so than actually having any destination. So yeah, man, what else, what's going on, man? I don't think anything new, to be honest with you. I had an interesting dream last night. Started off with me being in like a movie theater with my mother, and I don't remember exactly how this situation went, but more or less I was trying to go to the concession stand to grab something for my mom, and then it's like the whole dream shifted to me being at someone's house or something. I don't quite remember how it shifted from a movie theater to someone's house. Might have been one and the same, but it was like a mansion. And I ended up trying to take a shower, and I ended up trying to use the person, whoever that house there was, soap. And the soap that they had, I realized that I could be allergic to. So as I was starting to put it on my chest, I'm like, you know what? And I put it back down. I'm just like, man, I'm just gonna, and I can't use any of this stuff. As you guys know, I'm allergic. So it's like some of my ideas about wanting to shower at other people's house, I guess in that dream kind of reminded me, like, yo, you should probably carry some soap with you, because you really can't you really can't use people's soap and stuff like that. But that's neither here nor there. And then the dream shifted to where after I had gotten out the shower, I was talking to my mother about random stuff, and then I told her, I was like, hey, you know, I see my Aunt Cheryl. And in the dream, like, my Aunt Cheryl popped up, but she was a ghost that only I could see. And my mother was alive for whatever reason, but my aunt was a ghost. And I'm like, hey, I see Aunt Cheryl. I even told my mother what my Aunt Cheryl was wearing. She was like, you can really see her? I was like, yeah, I can see her right now. I'm looking at her. And I was like, and there goes grandmother. And I see my grandmother as well. She didn't look like herself though. She looked like she might have been represented in somebody else. I was like, I see her too. Like, and mind you, my aunt did pass away before my mom, but my grandmother passed away after my mom. So the whole thing didn't make any sense. But it seemed like I was in like a big mansion. I guess this place was a mansion of some sort. And I could hear my ex-girlfriend's voice in a different room. So I thought it might have been her mansion, or a place that she was living in or something. Like, it was very bizarre, but I had all my people there with me. And I don't know, then I ended up skipping into another part of the dream where I was leaving town from that place. And I had people with me that were saying goodbye to me in regards to like catching a train or something. I don't know, man. The dream was all over the place. Didn't quite make any sense, but I slept well. So, and I saw loved ones in the dream, and I don't know. But that's kind of how that went. By the time I woke up, for a change, I actually woke up at like, you know, went to sleep at my regular hour and woke up at like 5:30. Usually when I wake up these days, it's like 2 a.m. and I can't go back to sleep till like 5 something. So I guess you could say I slept a lot better last night than I normally have since getting into this room. But I ended up going back to sleep and waking up at like 9:44, a little later than I like to. But that's kind of how this is with this particular room. The blackout curtains, coupled with the fact that you're literally facing a wall outside your window, doesn't allow for a lot of sunshine in. And a lot of times those two components determine whether or not I'm getting up in an hour that I like or a little later. Because if the sun shines in, I'll get up 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30, somewhere in there. If the sun is not shining in the room, my body clock ain't gonna wake me up to like 9:30, 9:45 like it did this morning. So I prefer to get up earlier, and this room is not allowed for that. But hey, that's really what it was, man. Last night I enjoyed the basketball game. That was really fun to watch. After that, I got into like a little meditative space, for which I hadn't been getting into as much in this room, and ended up falling asleep somewhere in there. And that's really it. Got up this morning, did my same little routine, listened to a little bit of Joe Budden podcast, listened to some Diddy trial stuff, and now I'm getting out, man, just walking around trying to, you know, turn this into an exercise day of some sort, as I've been giving myself plenty of rest, and I don't think rest is what I need at this point. It's more about continuing the conditioning. So yeah, that's really what it is, man. It's not a whole lot to add to that. I honestly don't know if there's much on my mind outside of the normal stuff, man, and which is like the situation in Gaza, from which I understand they cut off all the power in Gaza, man. Cut off all the power as it pertains to the internet. If you don't have one of those e-cards in your phone, I guess that's what they call them, where you can connect with everybody no matter what. If you're in Gaza at this point, they didn't shut down the internet, so that means nobody's able to tell us or show us what is happening there right now. And so, hey, the nightmare there, it continues, and the carnage, I'm sure, is what to be expected at this point, when the lights are off, so to speak, and nobody can see what's going on there. So we continue to raise awareness for that situation, and hope for this to be you know, something that ends. I don't really know what the end of this looks like. Is there any more Palestinians left after this? I'd imagine the end of this means that they did kill them all off, and now they get to move on in and build whatever the hell they want to build in Gaza. I think that's what the end game for Israel is to wipe them entire people out, and then pretend like nothing happened, build on the top of their bones, just like they did America and the Native Americans. Send the ones who do survive in that exile somewhere, and probably use their reach to make their life hard in those places when they get there. That's probably what Israel's intention is doing. So we just pray for those people who are under the thumb of that nonsense, and in hopes that God will show them how to find their liberation somehow, and we continue to support them from here. That's all I can do. Continue to shun the people who are doing this to them, and you know, that's a helpless space from which to work, but that's all God has allowed us in the situation. So the fight continues for the freedom of those people, and the fight continues for the normalization of their humanity in the presence of great power and corruption in this world that is being revealed to us every day, every single day. And so that's really my point of view, man. I'm just frustrated as anyone else, and have been for 600+ days, and we'll continue to fight, man. But what else is going on in the situation out here with ICE? I haven't heard anything new other than what we talked about yesterday, which is they're going to try this bullcrap in other states. I know there have been other uprisings in different cities. San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in Arizona, there was an uprising as well. People protesting this situation. So that fight continues, but I haven't heard any updates today. I didn't really look on Instagram either, so I'm sure there's new stuff. Israel trying to get into it with Iran, I guess, trying to rope America into it. Donald Trump seems to be iffy about whether or not he wants to go up against Iran. I don't know what's going on with that, but I've been hearing little rumblings about that, and that seems to be a big deal right now in the world. I understood that Iran has nuclear powers, and at this point has their intention pointed at Israel. You know, my whole thing is, I try to consider the reality that a person like myself is in a space where I live in a country that the world would probably see as worthy of being blown off the map based on our complicity to genocide. And so there may be a good person in Israel or a bunch of kids in Israel who don't deserve to have their heads and their bodies destroyed by bombs just because their government and a lot of their society is okay with the discarding of human beings. And so I don't support using bombs to destroy entire cities for the sake of the ideologies that make up a good portion of the city. I don't think that's good math. I don't think that's good math. Not to mention that the land itself is Palestine. So if you destroy it, you're just furthering the genocide itself. If you really consider it. It's not like Israel way far away from Palestine. It's the same land. So if you drop an atomic bomb on that land, you too will be killing a bunch of Palestinian people, whoever's left, along with all the Israelis out there. But I will say the Israeli ideology, the one they've adapted to as a state, and what they agreed to as a state, puts a target on everybody back that's there. And so whenever someone decides to go that route, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot of support for the preservation of that place outside of those who are compromised enough and evil enough to want to see it continue. I don't think Iran should use an atomic bomb on those people, but I certainly understand why they feel like they want to. And that's quite unfortunate in and of itself. But as I always say, Zionism weaponizes itself against the Zionists, as well as everyone else that they hoping to victimize with their intentions. It puts them in just as much of a crosshair as it puts the people that they ultimately are targeting. And if they ain't wise enough to see that, then the devil is pleased with that, because he can catch them all off guard with it. And we've been saying that for over a year as well. And that goes for any Zionist in the world, man. Anybody that upholds ideology that collectively punishes a people for their existence, for their simple existence. You're creating enemies with your agreeance to that. And there will be people who don't deserve it that get hit by whatever comes to you just for being next to you. And that, I fear, could be a lot of our fate here in America and anywhere else people have upheld the evil of white supremacy and the vile practices of Zionism. And so that's what I want to say to people, man. We pray for our lives. We pray for our lineage. We pray for the upholding of our humanity and the humanity of others. And we ask the God that we love and serve to preserve the innocence around us, as grown-ups can tend to make decisions that affect the young ones. And that is what it is that I ultimately am prayerful in regards to these days. Like, we grown people making decisions to do whatever it is that we're doing on whatever side of the situation we're doing. But at the end of the day, it's the kids that don't have a say-so. They're the ones that have to grow up in war-torn situations. They're the ones that get cut down when whatever it is we agree to takes place. And it's not fair to them that they got their futures at risk based on conflicts that grown people engage in and fights that grown people have with one another. So that's my point of view. I think that there are a lot of innocent children who are being warped into these fights based on lies and brainwashing. And it's unfair. It's unfair seeing even Israeli kids sitting up here advocating for Israel to continue killing their generation mates. It's absolutely an unfair reality that these kids are being raised to be the next generation of abusers, next generation of selective humanity pushers, next generation of bad people. And I just wish that we could get to a space where, and all the different things that we're trying to do, I wish we had enough dignity as a generation to put some prioritization on not allowing for that to be something we agree to anymore. You want to put a palantir out there to silence those who threaten your point of view. Why don't you put a palantir out there to silence those who are trying to push horrible views on the children? Silence those who rebuke any sense of accountability pointed at them in their actions, and those who uphold selective humanity ideologies that stand for no accountability pointed at itself. That's the type of thing that I think, if we were doing things correctly as a responsible world, we will be pointing our attention at people who truly are evil instead of those who are more or less trying to hold people accountable for doing evil toward others. But when you let the bad guys run the country, when you let the bad guys run the world, lies become the truth, and the truth becomes something that needs to be silenced. And that's exactly where we are today. It's exactly what we've allowed ourselves to fall into. A space where bad guys tell the story of history. Bad guys paint the picture of what good and evil is ultimately about. And bad guys put themselves and their interests above that of everyone else. And then proceed to continue to call themselves good guys. While nobody holds them accountable out of fear and cowardice. Yeah, that's what's wrong with the world, man. And so when all of this reaches ahead, and people who are sick of that, who have a lot of power over massive amounts of weaponry, decide to point that weaponry at anybody and everybody who does that, like I said, I don't support it, but I understand it. I definitely do. But I would tell them, just like I would tell these individuals who are doing these things, one of the biggest mistakes a man can make is playing God, toying with things that don't belong to him. So we need not make that mistake on our side while watching others do the same thing. There's a dignity that we uphold that keeps a good name. And if the idea is to be frustrated with those who are foregoing dignity for the sake of their own gain, well, in neutralizing them, we can find ourselves in a position to end up doing more damage than they are. Or who ends up with the worst name? If the idea is to not allow people to kill children, and we drop an atomic bomb on somebody and wipe out the entire area, guess what you just did? Kill children. All you walk away end up being is a hypocrite, and the evil that was engaged in just gets transferred into you. So we need to be careful not to turn into the enemy that ultimately we can't stand. We gotta be careful not to uphold the hatred that we're trying to neutralize. And to know what game we're playing. And this is chess, not checkers. And you can't defeat fire with fire. This is what I understand. Find myself frustrated with, warring with, but at the end of the day, it just comes down to, if I support you dropping a bomb on Israel and wiping out the entire Israel, then I effectively support you wiping out Palestine, because Israel is Palestine. Just like California is Mexico. Whether we want to draw lines in these places and say, no, that's not true, or that it is, it's still the same land. It's still the same land. It's still the same people. So that's what needs to be understood, man. That's what needs to be understood, rather. I don't think there is an easy solution to any of this. And I do believe that the enemy would love for us to find the wrong way to approach these circumstances so that we can be transferred, or transformed, rather, into what it is that he is. And his evil just keeps on going. We got to maintain our dignity while trying to find solutions for these problems. We can't forego our dignity and think that we found solutions. That's not what a solution is. That's not going to put you in a position to have a good name when history tells the story of who you were. Trying to find ways of fixing a problem, you end up creating more of one. And so that's my point of view, man. I just want people to have some notion of that. Have some notion of that, man, as we continue to be frustrated or continue to feel worn out or tired, continue to think what we're doing isn't working or that there is no solution other than the worst one. I don't surmise that us playing God is going to please him. I don't think so. And I believe that a lot of people who are on the right side of this thing want to please God, but a lot of them are frustrated at what's in front of them and are willing to do whatever at this point just to win, you know. They're sick of seeing the bad guys win, so they want to win. But what does a win look like? You know, how do you define a win is what I ask all of us. How do you define a win? Is a win turning yourself into the bad guy and defeating the current bad guy? Because I don't think that that's a win. It's a win allowing the bad guy to do whatever he does and just find a way to save yourself. Because I don't think that actually is a win. I mean, if you can't beat them, join them type energy, I don't think that's a win. Continuing to just keep pushing forward like none of this ever happened because it didn't come to my doorstep, I don't believe that's a win. There's many different things that we're going to try to do here within our respective corners. A lot of people are just going to shut up and keep getting money because that's the only way they're going to get the power to do something. And for the time being, you hope that the structure that makes that money worth anything continues to stand. Well, I tell you, man, that ain't a win either, because that's what's at risk. See, it's the powers that be that are ultimately engaging in some really venomous-like stuff right now. That's what needs to be understood. And so as they continue to welcome whatever comes with that, the structures that are in place that they ultimately uphold and own are at risk to go along with it. They ain't wise enough to do the right thing in regards to this, nor were they wise enough to do the right thing in regards to upholding what they have. And that's why I would tell everybody, you being silent, just continuing to collect cash and making sure your family, your circumference is straight, may not be the answer to what ultimately keeps your family safe. Raising awareness and making us all aware, making us all more educated on what it is that's going on in these situations will give us the context necessary to know how to properly protect ourselves, protect our families. And that's why I keep telling people to refer to what's going on in the genocide in Palestine, because it truly does, based on all the characters involved, it truly does tell you more about what it is that you need to know about your own situation here in America and the Western world than probably any other circumstance. And it's just simply because of the characters involved. This is a unique situation because it really does reveal to you a lot of things that is going on around what you consider to be steadfast and safe. It tells you what's actually happening, who actually owns what their intentions are. It shows you examples of the behaviors that they've been engaging in other areas as to answer questions that you may have about other things that don't have nothing to do with it. That's what this Palestine thing has taught a lot of us. And you come to find out that a lot of what it is that we're concerned about in other areas are connected to these same people, connected to this same fight. And a lot of those things that have stolen money from various different things that we're looking at and wondering where that money went. It went to this. It went to the genocide. It went to the upholding of the propaganda that allows for us to align with genocide. And if we're not paying attention to the genocide itself, then you never see all the different things that are pointed at it that help you understand things that maybe you have concerns with in other areas of life. That's the presence of a living God. That's what I think. The presence of a living God will show you that the arrogance of those who've gotten away with other things will always continue to do things that they hope to get away with. And eventually their behavior in those spaces will give you traces of what evidence shows they're responsible for other things. They do a certain jig over in this area. Well, you seen somebody do a certain jig over there, but you couldn't tell who it was. Now you know who it was because you see them doing the same jig over here, and they're revealing themselves over here as who they are. Over there, no. You couldn't get a match on the DNA over there, but over here, you cross-reference it, voila. And that's what this Palestine thing has taught a lot of us who are paying attention to. Like, yo, that's the same little dance they did over there. And they want us to know it's them doing this over here. Nobody else do no dances like that. So it had to be them doing that for which we didn't have solved then over there. Now we understand what it is we've been looking at. And that's what it is that ultimately we're seeing now. That's what's available for us. If we start looking at this circumstance and start going down that rabbit hole that ultimately this provides us. But I tell you, man, if I've learned anything at all, is that none of this is as simple as one person doing one thing or one person having power over here so they can dictate everything. A dictatorship, that's not what this is. That's the context that Palestine has shown all of us in regards to America. Donald Trump is a certain type of personality. You know, Joe Biden was a certain type of personality, and I'm sure they have strong personality traits, ego stuff, and all different stuff. But if you're paying attention to what's going on in Palestine, then the context to understand that they don't have as much power as they want us to believe they have is there for you to see. Donald Trump is a puppet for Israel, Zionist Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, whatever the word is, however you describe these people. Whatever the proper term is, he is a piece on their chessboard. And the sooner that America starts to understand that, the sooner they can have the context necessary to know how to perceive some of the things going on in their country. Because the personality of Donald Trump and the way that he's presented to us, if you're without the context of what's going on with the Ashkenazi Jews or whatever they call themselves, is not present, then the presentation is that this is a dictator, and that if you remove him from the circumstance and replace him with somebody else, then you got freedom reigning all over the world, or whatever the hell people think is going to happen. He's like, some great solution comes from him being gone. No. The context and the proof, the understanding needed to know that that isn't the case, is enriched in this Palestinian conflict. It's there. Now, I've been telling people this for a long time. I've been saying this for a very long time. This isn't new. I've been saying this since I started going down this rabbit hole 600 plus days ago. Like, a lot of stuff you're not going to know nothing about unless you pay attention to things going on outside of your bubble. And your bubble is being presented certain things a specific way for a specific reason, so that you will stay in a space from which to only swing but so far. If you're fighting somebody, you're only going to be able to hit them as far as your reach can get to them, right? Well, if those you actually need to be fighting are well out of reach, then it doesn't matter how much swinging you're doing and how much connecting you're doing. You're not actually hitting who it is that ultimately you need to be hitting. And that's essentially how things are presented to America. So that when we uprise, we're protesting the wrong things. So that when we vote with a certain fervor that is intent on finding solutions that aren't found in that vote. So that when we turn our attentions to sue this person or turn our attentions to attack that person or whatever the hell you're going to do in protest, you're never actually going after who it is that's really doing what to you. And they make sure that through the lens that you look at based on how they present everything in this bubble, that you will not only not point your attention in the right direction, but that you will be disinterested in the directions that ultimately the truth is found. That's what they do with the culture in a lot of spaces when they want to control your mind and make sure that you're doing things the way they want you to do them. Not only are they brainwashing you, but they're also trying to make a culture so that you will be disinterested in where the truth is. I don't care about that. That's going on over there. I don't care about that. It has nothing to do with me. I don't care about that because it's not pointed at my people. I don't care about that because, well, I don't like those people. And those are the type of things that they want to make culture and normal so that you won't put the pieces together that come from understanding all of those different things as they come together, revealing to you what's really going on. That's why it's important that we got to step out of our culture, because the culture is in place on purpose so that we be disinterested in where the truth is found. And mind you, they're doing the same thing in other places. Making it so that it's only culture to go towards spaces from which your reach is not necessary. And you're swinging and hitting at stuff that ain't even your enemy. Devil's always looking to be hidden in plain sight. And so that's why I want to tell people, man, y'all got to understand this and then act accordingly. And the very things they tell you is not interesting or not something you should be focused on, or the very things they tell you are not your business and it's not our fight. They want you to think that so that you're not putting the pieces together that come from those fights, the data from all them little fights. Black people say, I ain't paying attention to what's going on with ICE. That's not my fight. Hey. And let me be the one to tell you that you're brainwashed. Let me be the one to tell you that you're playing right into the enemy's hands by thinking that way. Let me let you know that you are not awake just because you say you're woke. You're not woke. You're asleep. You're asleep. You are nestled to sleep by what it is that controls your mind and points your attention in certain directions that it needs your attention to be in order to be fine. That is the reality of all of y'all that think this ain't your fight. You are doing exactly what you were trained to do. And your ego is going to tell you to ignore me, and they control that too. The ego is going to tell you that I'm a stupid dude and that I'm just waiting for somebody to backstab me because I care about their issues. And I'm telling you, all the information I need is pointed in the directions that they're telling me not to pay attention to. All the information I need is focused in those concentrated areas where my concentration is not found. You can see the imprint of this as they teach your children about everything but taxes, everything but wealth building and financial literacy, everything but credit building and things of that nature. All the things that are most important when you're going to work for the rest of your life making the same wages. You need to know how to make your money make money for itself. And these are the things they're not teaching. You need to know how to maneuver around tax circumstances so that your money can make money for itself. So that you can raise yourself out of the circumstances you find yourself in, or not be one job away from poverty. You think they're going to teach you all this? Hell no. Why? Because that puts you in a position to eventually, by way of you putting your money together with everybody doing the right things in your family in that regard, to maybe, if anything, take a chunk out of the wealth that ultimately they use over your head. Closing that wealth gap. If everybody does that correctly, it's not that much of a gap. They can't continue to have you nickel and dime paying into every little thing that ultimately makes them wealthy on this level. If all of us are doing that correctly, what the hell do we need with a dollar menu? We're not stressed out enough to be buying some of these drugs on these streets so that they can rope us all together and throw us in prison for drug possession and all different types of stuff. We're not at odds with each other in these poverty-stricken areas because we're not poor. So the last thing they need to do is teach you how not to be poor. But they are going to make sure that you are focused on the things that they need you focused on so that you remain poor and want to be, without actually seeing it as that, or aiming for things that you think are going to pull you out of poverty are really just going to put you in prison. And your attention is where you need it not be, where they want it to be, so that they can continue to have their foot on your neck. And I tell you, the behavior is in other spaces. Just like I told you in regards to the context that you're going to pick up when you do pay attention to things that you're not paying attention to. You're going to find out the behavior is over there, and you could cross-reference that behavior over there and see it's the same people doing the same shit. Because they're revealing themselves over here, but over there, nah, not really. But they're doing the same things. And it's parallel for what we're talking about. And those who are at the top of this, they control to a degree too, because they think they've won the game. So as they think they've won the game, they try to continue to be winners in the game. So the last thing they want is parity. But the context for wanting parity is absent. Why they should want it is absent. They too are brainwashed in their own way. You wonder why people aren't going around teaching one another these things or advocating so that everybody else can have this information. It's because the essence of being on top of others is what this is ultimately built on. Not to even consider the fruit in everybody having enough so that people can stay off each other's backs and stay off each other's necks and etc. This is almost as if by default we're going to be on each other's necks no matter what, which isn't the case. But balance is the great antithesis to corruption, and they don't want any part of that. Self-sufficiency and parity in self-sufficiency amongst everybody is a great antithesis to great wealth and then from there the exclusivity of things. In order for me to enjoy my 1% perks in life, it needs to be so that only 1% of us can actually be here. If we start to close that gap, then I start letting everybody else in, and then it isn't exclusive anymore. How pretty is Tulum if everybody from the hood is coming here and everybody from the barrio is coming here? It's not Tulum anymore, apparently. That's what drives a lot of them to continue to uphold that for which keeps all of us down here in a space where we're down here, so that they can continue the exclusivity of the perks of being wealthy. Because I have to be better than you in order for me to enjoy the beautiful things that God has created. You can't be here in order for it to feel like it's worth it to me, because the essence of all of this is that I'm special. And if you're not special, that can exist. But if you are special while I'm special, then I'm not special anymore. So therefore, I need to keep you down there so you're not coming into my spaces, taking away my special. Taking away what makes me special. Otherwise, I'm just a human being like the rest of y'all. And God forbid we all the same, right? God forbid. That's what I'm saying, man. And this has been going on since the beginning of the time, since spinning was spinning. Have people with great ambition driven themselves to not only have everything, but to drive others into the ground, so that for which makes it so that they have everything can be seen as special, exclusive. I got it, you don't. That's what makes it important. That's what makes me better than you. That I kept you from everything that would help you better yourself. And we all just think this is default. Yeah, this is what it is. Yeah, that's how it goes. I got to get to the top. And then when I get to the top, I can shit on everybody else. Look down at all of these people. You ain't never getting here. I can't tell you how many people I've seen who think they're good people, adapt to that mentality. Saw the sheer inability to think for themselves, and a lack of decency in their heart as it pertains to their humanity pointed at others. I don't want you to have nothing. I want it all. I'm selfish. All right, cool. You're selfish. And when people come to tell the story about you, the only thing they're going to have to say about you is that you didn't care about nobody else and you were forgotten. And being coerced by it way of the culture that you adapt to and was trained by or brainwashed by. And if you can't think your way out of that brainwashing, then you're going to suffer what comes with it. Suffer the reputation that comes with it. So, I don't know, man. I'm just trying to tell people there are better ways. There are better ways. We don't have to go down in the history books as selfish people who didn't care about the future, who didn't care about one another, who only wanted the temporary satisfaction of exclusivity and our luxuries. Didn't want to share what great things were possible in our lives. Because God forbid everybody have a fast car. God forbid everybody have their own land and a big house or whatever. God forbid that we find a way to assure that everyone eats good and feels good. And because then, what makes it special? What's the point of amassing so much if I can't have more than everyone else? That's what they think. That's what we all adapt to. That's what we all think is the only way. This is it. We don't think our way through these circumstances. We're just doing what we're taught. And as we're taught, we just roll. This is what it is. I want to master that. I ain't trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to get as good as I can at spinning it. All right. That's what's wrong with a lot of people in this world. That's what's wrong with a good portion of humanity in general. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They ain't questioning why their wheel spins the way it do. They just want to get good at spinning it. It's not about questioning the way things are. It's about mastering the way they are. Whether they make any sense or not. Whether people suffer or not. Whether people have enough or not. Whether children end up in bad situations or not. I'm just trying to master the way the wheel spins. Because this is the way things are. How many godless people have run out of breath screaming, I just did things the way they were. There was no use in doing nothing but what things were as they were. I'm sick of all of that. Me as a person of God, I'm not interested in any of that. Person who's trying to develop a stronger relationship with God, I don't care for any of that. I'm trying to find a better way. And through the infinite wisdom of the God I serve, I know that there is one. I don't have to live godlessness to think that there's no other way than to keep doing things the wrong way and letting some suffer while others feel the exclusivity of luxury at the behest of the devil they serve. I'm cool. I don't have to do that. I believe in God. I'm not bound by that at all. And neither do any of us have to be if we just evolve and think our way through the wheel itself. It's just like the wheel was discovered or found or whatever, how the hell that goes. Created, so too can something else. So that's really what I'm saying to y'all, man. The object of the game is to evolve. And somebody has to step outside of what's comfortable to do so. Somebody has to step outside of what is default, what it just is, to find something that is better, more feasible, more humane. We gotta find that. It's not gonna come to us. It's not gonna be something that just appears from within the spaces of everybody doing things the same way. Everybody agreeing that mistreatment is just a byproduct of existence. It is not. It is forced, just like I'm trying to force a way out of it. Poverty is forced. Illegal alienism is forced. That's something that needs to be understood. America is tearing up these people's countries. Every chance they get, they got their hands in somebody else's cookie jar, making the place uninhabitable to hoard the wealth and stand on the backs of other people, maintaining the exclusivity of a beautiful land, because God forbid we not be special if everyone's land is beautiful. So let's tear up the whole freaking world, draw from it all that we can, and then when people try to flee to a better land for which we've made sure we have one of the only ones, we shun them and make it impossible for them to do so. Why? Because it's about exclusivity. It's about luxury. It's about us having better than you, so therefore, that's trash. I don't accept that. I don't think we need to be going forward with that. I don't think that's the way for us to raise our children, with exclusivity being the default and suffering being the default thereafter. I don't agree with that anymore. I don't think that should be. I don't think it has to be. When you understand how much money, quote unquote, money is floating around, whatever the hell a dollar is these days, when you understand how much of it's just being siphoned from various places without anything to represent it, I understand that there's enough money to make sure that everybody's comfortable in this life. There's enough money to send everybody to an island for a week. There's enough money to make sure that everybody's fed and has good health care. There's enough money to make sure everybody has new Jordans or whatever the hell the beautiful shoes is. There's enough money to do it all. Some of these people got this money sitting in a vault. They're never even going to touch it while people are suffering. And they're hoarding more money, making more money, saving and penny printing more money just to have it, just to say they have the number of the money. They don't even use it. It's sitting in their freaking vault. And I'm a bad guy for wanting to crack that vault open so that I can feed people who don't have nothing. Suddenly I'm immoral because I feel like they're horrible human beings for continuing to keep the presence of exclusivity, a dead money that they're not even using. And they're supposed to be the best of the best because they've been able to amass more than what they can spend. Wasting money on bull crap. Wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars on creature comforts and feeding their demons. And listen to this puffy thing, all the money that he wasted on people he knew didn't care for him, didn't like him, just so he can get his rocks off. Do you know how many people he could have fed if he would have gave that money to the poor, if he would have gave them that money to the neighborhoods that he came from? Places where his father was mucking around in the dirt trying to make a buck. He out here trying to get a nut. If he would have gave that money, all that money he was giving to these women, to people who really needed it, he could have fed people, man. And he ain't the only one. It's a billion of y'all out there with billions of dollars that ain't doing nothing with the money, hoarding it, getting your rocks off, and enjoying the exclusivity of clean spaces while the rest of the world suffers. Enough with me. You are safe because I am not God. Because if I were, you would not be. I wipe all of y'all out. Just off the strength of your selfishness and your comfort with the allowance of others being suffering in your presence while you enjoy exclusivity and big homes and beautiful things. Everybody else has to suffer unless they can find a way to amass as much as you did, upholding the same evil that you uphold. You're disgusting. You're selfish. You make the world a worse place from your presence just for behaving the way that you do. And you still harbor a body just like everybody else around here. You're a human being. You're flesh and bone, and you're going to die just like the rest of us. And a lot of y'all going to be forgotten just as quickly as you discarded of the rest of us. A lot of y'all say I'm hating because I don't have anything. The presence of that being something to want only reinforces that I become you. And as I've said many times in regards to the spiritual conversation, the last thing I want to do is mimic the oppressor or turn into the evil and the hatred that ultimately I'm trying to fight. No, I don't want to be you. I don't want what you have. If it's going to turn me into what you are, I'm cool. You a follower and you found a way to continue pushing the wheel, even though it means that a lot of people get crushed underneath it. You comfortable because you mastered the wheel. I'm not trying to master the wheel. I'm trying to create something else. I'm trying to spark the mind who's smart enough to do so. And so that's what I'm here to tell y'all, man. At the end of the day, if we're not trying to inspire something greater than what it is that we've allowed, that allows for so many people to suffer and get mistreated under the guise of it being acceptable and law and all different other stuff that is corruptible in nature, then we become worse. It don't stay the same. It gets worse. The hunger for greed, the hunger for exclusivity is something that only continues to become more intense in the bodies and the minds of those who are evolving naturally one way or another. And so that's what I want to say to everybody, man. I'm not interested in nothing that's going to continue to keep this as it is. We are shunning this energy and hoping to spark the minds of those who can give us something that works a bit more blessed, if anything. Something that God can get with and be proud of. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. If you're not a part of that, I'm not smart enough to see you not being part of the problem. That's all I see. Maybe there's a better way to look at it. Bdf 44. I thank you all for watching.